This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Nearly 30,000 Ukrainians have arrived and settled in Manitoba since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. On today's third-year anniversary, many Ukrainian newcomers are anxious about their future here. It comes as many deal with document challenges and hurdles in the immigration process. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel brings us one family story.
Tatiana Isakova's days look a lot like this.
So no one picks up?
Yes, it's every time.
Tatiana and her husband Leonid can't get through to the Consulate General of Ukraine in Toronto. Their attempts to book an appointment with them online also aren't going anywhere.
And sorry, there are no free times right now. Please try again later.
They need an appointment to renew Leonid's passport that expires this year. Without that, he can't extend his open work permit to stay in Canada.
I need to live here because I no live here, so I come back Ukrainian and I that.
The couple and their 8-year-old son don't want to leave Carmen, Manitoba, where they've lived for nearly 2 years.
We want to stay. Because in Ukraine, not safe now, not safe for us, for my son.
The Ukrainian-Canadian Congress of Manitoba says many Ukrainian newcomers are running into challenges with their paperwork. Those who came under the Canada-Ukraine Authorization for Emergency Travel program have until March 31st to apply for student visa or work permit extensions. The UCC's Ostap Skripnik says Ukrainian men aged 18 to 60 can't get their passports renewed in Canada unless they're registered with the Ukrainian military through an app called Reserve Plus.
Some people are having difficulty accessing that. Some people are worried that if they do register, they'll get a draft notice. So they're caught in a little bit of a situation that they can't get consular services from the Ukrainian government until they have that.
Leonid is afraid of that and of renewing his passport in Ukraine because military-aged men are prohibited from leaving the country.
And this is its problem.
And we stuck.
The UCC is optimistic, though, Ukrainian newcomers won't have to leave Canada if they don't want to.
We met with Minister Miller, the immigration minister, a couple of weeks ago when he was in Winnipeg, and I think they're willing to look at solutions within the law or within the regulations to have some understanding of people have these little timing hiccups, let's put it this way.
Immigration Canada recently told CBC News it may consider exemptions to the passport requirement for work permits under exceptional circumstances on a case-by-case basis. For now, the family is exploring all options with hopes of staying here together. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Carmen, Manitoba.
Hundreds of people gathered at the Human Rights Museum yesterday to mark 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Many gathered inside, with dozens more taking the message to the end of the war to the streets. CBC's Gavin Axelrod takes us there.
Ukraine's national anthem, bringing some to tears. At the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, people coming together Sunday, marking the 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, thinking of those still in Ukraine.
I would like to see my family and my friends, because a lot of my friends are already dead, and some of them alive and fight for my country.
The war is Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II. This family holding a photo of their loved one who died fighting for Ukraine.
We grew up together. He was caring about me when my parents weren't home, and he was a really good person.
Speaking at the rally, politicians from different parties denounced the war and say Ukraine must be involved in peace talks, vowing Manitoba and Canada's support won't waver.
And this fight for freedom and democracy and human rights is one in which we all must be united together around the world.
They need every tool possible because there cannot be peace with weakness.
Vladimir Putin will be never welcomed on Canadian soil. Never.
Outside, dozens more waving flags, chanting and singing, worrying what comes next.
And just like trying to live day to day, like you're super stressed because of everything that's going on.
For now, Irina Konstantuk is looking to the future with optimism.
I have a feeling that we're not alone in this, and we have no other choice. We're going to win this battle.
As people here hope for peace one day soon. Gavin Axelrod, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The city has put in some new rules at some of its pools after a 14-year-old boy drowned. It happened last April at Cindy Clausen Recreation Complex. As CBC's Josh Crabb reports, an internal review identified issues with the emergency response, and it's led to lifeguarding changes.
14-year-old Adam Soretta Paul went swimming on the afternoon of April 1st, 2024. He got to Cindy Clausen Pool between 3:30 and 3:45. His mom came to watch. He got permission by staff to go into deeper water after passing a swimming test. Around an hour later, Soretta Paul was discovered at the bottom of the dive tank and later pronounced dead. This is according to an internal report. CBC obtained the document from Soretta Paul's mom. It found the emergency alarm on the pool deck required several attempts to activate. An on-deck radio was referenced as not in working order. There were inconsistencies in aquatic emergency response and a delay in calling 911. The city didn't make anyone available for an interview, but detailed changes following the drowning. It has since increased the number of lifeguards on deck to 2 at all times, which is above the requirement of 1 as per Manitoba's Public Health Act. Lifeguards have been retrained in emergency response procedures, all safety equipment has been tested, and the city hired the Life Saving Society Manitoba to review lifeguarding processes and make improvements. In a statement to CBC, Soretta Paul's mom, Cindy, dad, Jason, and sister, Kyra, say the changes are a good thing going forward and that these are obvious policies or protocols that should have been in place all along. The family says their son and brother, who had a huge passion for life, paid with his life for the city to realize this. The review found 3 instructor/guards were working in the facility at the time of the incident. 1 instructor guard was on deck lifeguarding. Soretta Paul was the last one in the dive tank and was headed towards the shallow end between 4 and 4:30. A lifeguard was quoted in the report as saying, "Upon rotating at 4:30, we both clarified that the deep end was still clear and not in use to remain 1 guard on deck." The lifeguard on deck at 4:38 saw Soretta Paul in the dive tank and pushed the emergency alarm. The boy was brought to the surface and wasn't breathing. Lifeguards did multiple rounds of CPR before the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service took over care. Pool staff found out around 5:50 Soretta Paul died. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It was a random attack that left a 14-year-old girl in hospital and police searching for a group of girls they say are responsible. The teenager was stabbed in Winnipeg's Norwood East neighborhood while she was on her way to meet up with someone on Saturday night. Police say the girl was walking near Niverville Avenue and Champlain Street when she was confronted by a group of girls she didn't know. The group assaulted and stabbed her and then took off. Those who live nearby called the incident worrisome.
Oh, it's concerning. This is my neighborhood and this is where I walk my dog all the time. I've attended some programs at the community center as well, and so you just never like to hear about something that, is violence in my neighborhood.
Police say it was a bystander in the area who called 911 to get the girl help. She was taken to hospital. The group of girls has yet to be identified. Bring in weather specialist Riley Lachuk now. And Riley, you are back in people's good books with this warmer weather. I didn't even wear a proper jacket. I had a vest on today.
But you know what? I'll tell you, on the way home, Brittany, make sure you fill up your washer fluid.
Yes.
Pick up a jug because You're going to go through it the next few days for sure. Temperatures this afternoon as forecast, +3 in Winnipeg, pretty similar temperatures across the south. You can really see where the jet stream just cuts across the province with some of these warmer temperatures to the south, some of that mild, moist Pacific air, and some of the colder air to the north, where we did struggle to get above -15 in places like Churchill this afternoon. Mostly sunny skies actually into the Westman region today, so some sunshine in Brandon and into the Parkland region in particular. Mostly cloudy. I know we did see a few sprinkles in Winnipeg through the afternoon hours today. Another similar day to come for us tomorrow. So -3 overnight. Do have a chance of some scattered flurries tonight, up to -3 first thing in the morning. And then we're looking at temperatures very similar, up to +2 again. I think a few more sunny breaks through the afternoon. But Brittany, as I said, a messy few days ahead. We'll break that all down when I come back.
All right, big smile there. Yes. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
A Winnipeg man says he's out thousands after his application for a provincial electric vehicle rebate was denied. More on that straight ahead. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. A Winnipeg man says he's out thousands of dollars after being denied a rebate for his electric car. He went through all the right channels and thought he was eligible to get $2,500 back, only to be told he's out of luck. He says there's flaws in the system and wants to make sure it doesn't happen to others. The CBC's Joanne Levasseur reports.
Brad Clowett thought he was doing all the right things. He bought an electric car to help protect the planet, but not before he checked to make sure the car was eligible for a $2,500 electric vehicle rebate from the province. Before buying, he plugged the serial number into MPI's site, and it said it was eligible. Here's a screenshot Clowett says he took on January 30th. 2 weeks later, MPI told him his car didn't qualify because it was more than 4 years old.
Was quite surprised that we got it rejected when it totally is clear and concise on the webpage that you use this tool to see if you're eligible for the rebate.
CBC took his concerns to Manitoba's Environment Minister, whose department is in charge of the program.
I don't control the MPI. The program is part of our, the Department of Environment and Climate Change, but MPI is in control of that rebate.
But in a statement, MPI says that eligibility checker is just one step to help. Customers are responsible for ensuring that their purchase date and model year date are within the 4-year time frame. Clowett calls it a cop-out.
I think I did everything possible to verify that it was eligible by checking using the tools that were provided by the government through the MPI.
Even though he's out the rebate, he's still happy he got the car. He estimates plugging it in costs about $2.50 for every 100 kilometers he drives. Joanne Levasseur, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some Hyundai drivers report paint peeling off their cars in big chunks. Even when it happens to relatively new cars, owners say getting help has been difficult. It's a problem happening across the world, and specifically to white Hyundais. Ithil Musa with the Go Public team has more.
When Armando Tusi bought his brand new Hyundai Sonata in 2016, he never imagined it would look like this in less than 10 years.
It's kind of embarrassing.
Tusi says he's tried contacting Hyundai Canada and his local dealership, but he says
no one wants to take ownership, no one wants to take accountability.
According to Hyundai Canada's warranty program, paint is only covered for 3 years or 60,000 kilometers. This auto expert, who's seen photos of Tusi's car, says paint on vehicles should last much longer.
I believe the paint job should last for as long as you own the vehicle.
The culprit says this expert is likely delamination or the loss of adhesion.
The paint consists of 4 coatings, 4 layers of paint. And if they're not applied properly or if it's the incorrect formulation, one will actually separate, peel away from the other layer.
Peeling, flaking.
Hyundais with peeling paint have been reported across the globe. And curiously, nearly all of them are white, with thousands of drivers sharing their experiences online, including this Australian.
The other day, a child was walking past the car and said to their mum, what's wrong with that lady's car?
The paint on Nixon's used 2015 hatchback started to peel in late 2019, but getting help fixing it has been impossible, she says.
I don't feel protected as a consumer.
Hyundai Canada says vehicles experiencing manufacturing paint issues are extremely rare, and Hyundai vehicles undergo rigorous testing to meet industry standards. Hyundai USA is offering a white paint warranty extension for certain models. When Go Public reached out, Hyundai Canada said some models sold in Canada are also eligible.
Still, owners are not just embarrassed to be seen in these vehicles, they're angry. In Quebec, a proposed class action lawsuit has been filed against the automaker, but that will take time. Ithil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Parts of Manitoba are defrosting this week as temperatures above zero in the southern parts of the province. The warm weather means less frosty faces and, of course, less frosty trails. It's prompted the Forks to ask skaters to stay off the river. The Nestawaya River Trail will be temporarily closed to skaters. People are being asked to keep off the ice. Winnipeg is expecting above zero temperatures the next few days. It made for some soft and slow skating today ahead of the closure. CBC caught up with a few people who managed to get one last skate in.
It would be nice to skate some more, but I also am liking the nice weather after our cold snap.
Oh, it looks like it's going to be a nice week, and then it might get a little bit colder at the end, but this could be it, right? Maybe we also canoe, so we might be out here canoeing sooner than skating.
The river trail has been open for 55 days so far this season, since the first section opened on December 31st. All walking, biking, and cross-country skiing trails do remain open. Well, I think some people might want to be canoeing rather than skating.
I like the enthusiasm of getting out to use the river.
Right? It's been a good season, 55 days. It's been a very cold season this year compared to what we've seen in the past. Lots of people out there this weekend, very happy.
Packed this weekend. You know what? There is some cooler weather on the way once we get through the next 7 days, so maybe we can get a few more yet.
Maybe.
So
I do know that the pups are enjoying some bootyless walks right now.
Exactly. I want to start here with a picture. This is from Roxanne, who shot this early Sunday morning over St. Boniface. A very, I don't know, moody, ominous, any of those words work, of the crescent moon as it was over the city early Sunday morning. Thank you, Roxanne. You can send your pictures, as always, to talkback at cbc.ca. I always love seeing what your corner of the province looks like. So speaking of the cold snap, I thought I'd just take us back to last week when those really cold temperatures. So here, I wanted to show you, first off, the average number of days that we see below -30 in Winnipeg. The average February, we see 3 of those. This year, we've seen 5. So yes, it was cold, but still close to average for those number of -30 days. But Brandon, your average 4. Brandon getting 11 days below -30. So don't have to go too far down the highway, as I always say, to see some very cold temperatures. So we're still on the warm side of the jet stream here in southern Manitoba. That's allowed some of that very moist, very warm Pacific air into the province. Colder temperatures to the north of that jet stream, and that's aided in part by this area of low pressure over Baffin Island, which has allowed some cooler air into parts of the province as we've gotten throughout the day today. And really, we're looking at some, ebbing and flowing in our cloud cover over the next couple of days, and with that comes the chance of some flurries or some rain showers, kind of like we saw today. So as we get through the day on Tuesday, you can see northern sections and central parts of the province again are looking at a weak disturbance pushing through. I mean, not a lot in terms of accumulation, but certainly could see some of that into northern parts of the province tomorrow. Again, in the south, a mix of sun and clouds. I think here in the Red River Valley, a little bit brighter. Again, though, as we get into Wednesday, another chance of some scattered flurries. And behind that, another stronger area of low pressure that I think has the potential to bring us some snow even to southern parts of the province as we get through the later part of the week here. So timing this out to early Thursday morning, yes, another 5 to 6 centimeters for places like Norway House into Flin Flon, less the further north, and of course the further south you go, where we're still on the warm side of that jet stream as we get through the next couple of days here. So waking up tomorrow morning, -3 first thing in the morning in Winnipeg, -4 through Gimli, -7 into Brandon, but far northern parts of the province, close to -30. Brittany, we're up to +2 tomorrow and hanging around the freezing mark through the rest of the work week.
All right. Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, here's a look at the polar bears at the Assiniboine Park Zoo, and I don't think they're complaining about the weather this winter so far. We have more to come after this. Stay with us. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is one of several world leaders in Ukraine, marking the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion. He pledged new aid and more military equipment and worked to rally support for the country. CBC's Chris Brown has more.
With the scent of U.S. betrayal in the air, Justin Trudeau came to Kyiv in a show of solidarity with Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky.
How important it is to continue to stand with Ukraine and figure out a way to create a just and lasting peace.
Trudeau was far from alone, but missing in action on this 3rd anniversary of Russia's invasion was any senior representative of Donald Trump's administration, though Trudeau did lead a virtual G7 meeting that included both Trump and Zelensky.
President Trump, we would really like to hear from you because all our people, all our families are very worried. Will there be support from America?
Trump has started negotiating with Russia directly, without Ukraine, claiming he believes Vladimir Putin wants peace, a notion openly scoffed at in Kyiv.
His goal remains Ukraine's capitulation.
Right now, the negotiations are happening above our heads without any kind of a plan and strategy. That's why I think this meeting has been extremely important.
For Canada's part, Trudeau announced it's sending Ukraine 25 more light armored vehicles. And using seized Russian assets as collateral, Canada will send the first installment of an eventual $5 billion to Ukraine.
Oui, c'est absolument possible.
Trudeau also opened up the possibility that Canada could have boots on the ground in the country as part of a post-war security guarantee.
When we establish the way we're going to keep a lasting peace, I can tell you I'm certain that Canada will be involved, but we're not at that position yet.
Beyond the gathering on Kyiv's frozen Dnipro River, we found Ukrainians reluctantly coming to the same conclusion as the European leaders, that the war against Russia may have to be fought without U.S. help. A lot depends on how Europe will act now, said Vladislav. Will it stop looking to America and start making its own decisions? It looks like we've been played in some kind of game, says Victoria, and now Russia and America are dividing up our territories among themselves. Chris Brown, CBC News, Kyiv.
U.S. President Donald Trump met with French President Emmanuel Macron in Washington today. They participated in a G7 leadership call marking that 3rd anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine and later held a joint news conference. Richard Madden has more.
President Donald Trump welcoming French President Emmanuel Macron to the White House to start the first of 2 separate high-stakes meetings this week with European leaders, urging the president not to abandon Ukraine as the U.S. negotiates a peace deal with Russia.
The cost and burden of securing the peace must be borne by the nations of Europe, not alone by the United States.
Now, Macron says EU countries are now prepared to spend more on Ukraine's security and the possibility of sending troops to Ukraine, but in a limited role. Macron insisting America's leadership is still needed to play a crucial role in a ceasefire deal.
A lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged, but we do need this American backup because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees, and this is our collective deterrence capacity. And I have the feeling that the president has this capacity.
While the 2 leaders appeared friendly and engaging, there was one notable disagreement on the value of Europe's support for Ukraine, prompting this extraordinary correction by Macron inside the Oval Office.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear.
If you believe that, it's okay with me. But they get their money back, we don't, and now we do.
On Thursday, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer will visit the White House as part of Europe's diplomatic counteroffensive. Trump also saying Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky could also visit a few weeks from now to sign a deal providing Ukraine's critical minerals to the U.S. in exchange for security guarantees. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
Meantime, Trump says he will go ahead with his plan to slap Canada and Mexico with 25% tariffs next week. He insisted there will be no further delays in implementing the penalties on most of the goods. They are due to take effect on March 4th.
The tariffs are going forward on time, on schedule. This is an abuse that took place for many, many years. And I'm not even blaming the other countries that did this. I blame our leadership for allowing it to happen.
A Conservative Party has won the federal election in Germany. Its leader will now form a coalition government, though not with the far-right party that finished second. Friedrich Merz becomes chancellor at a challenging time for his country and for Europe as a whole. Abby Kuathasan explains.
The Chancellor-designate Friedrich Merz says foreign policy is a top priority for him. But first, his Conservatives must work together with other parties to form a coalition government after winning about 30% of nationwide support in Sunday's federal election. He has ruled out working with the far-right AfD, which finished in second with about 20% support. But Merz has already put in a call to the third-place party. That's Chancellor Olaf Scholz's SPD. Part of that is to ensure a smooth transition, Merz said. Germany could see a center-left and center-right coalition government once again if these two parties join forces. Merz has said he wants negotiations to go quickly and a coalition government to be formed by Easter at the latest. That's in mid-April. He spoke of the challenges the country is facing. Merz said the transatlantic relationship is critical, but argued that if it's damaged, it's also to the detriment of the United States. He's prepared to find common ground and still sees Washington as a crucial partner, but is concerned that Washington went ahead with unilateral talks with the Kremlin to end the war in Ukraine. Support for Kyiv will continue under Chancellor Merz, who insists that Ukrainians must be part of all negotiations to end Russia's war of aggression on their territory. He even suggested he'll greenlight the shipment of Taurus long-range missiles, which Chancellor Scholz has been reluctant to do. But both parties have made it clear that Germany needs to play a much larger role within Europe and on the world stage at a time when it cannot rely on the current White House. Abby Kuathasan, CBC News, Berlin.
The leader of the Democratic Republic of the Congo says 7,000 people have died in fighting there since January, when Rwandan-backed rebels launched new advances in the territory. The Prime Minister made the comments at a meeting of the UN Human Rights Council on Monday. She also said 450,000 people are without shelter because 90 displacement camps have been destroyed. The rebels have fought the Congolese army and captured 2 big cities. This is an escalation in a conflict that's been raging for more than 3 years. The rebels say they're fighting to protect people of Rwandan origin from discrimination. But analysts say Rwanda is motivated by interest in Congo's mineral resources. There are concerns the fighting could spark a war in the region. The already fragile ceasefire in Gaza is growing ever more uncertain. Phase 1 is drawing to a close, but both sides say the exchange of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners is not going according to plan. Now, Israel's expanding offensive in the occupied West Bank could become another major obstacle. Sasha Petrusik has the latest.
Israel's been ramping up its military activity in the occupied West Bank ever since the conflict in Gaza started 16 months ago, but especially over the past 5 or 6 weeks when the ceasefire went into effect. And that's included many troops, armored personnel carriers, airstrikes in some cases. And now we are seeing tanks for the first time, really in the past 20 years. These camps in the north, the refugee camps, are homes to descendants of those who were displaced way back in 1948 when Israel was first created. They've also been hotbeds of militant activity, including Hamas, and that's only been increasing over the course of the war in Gaza, partly because people have been attracted to that cause. That's why Israel says it really has to move in for its own security.
It's military operations taking place there against terrorists, and no other objectives but this one.
But as Israel has moved in, it has displaced 40,000 people from these areas, and there have been hundreds of deaths.
And I'm gravely concerned by the rising violence in the occupied West Bank by Israel's settlers and other violations, as well as calls for annexation.
Israel's occupation of the West Bank and its military presence there has always been controversial with the UN. In fact, it's been declared illegal by the World Court. It's also raised a lot of anger and frustration among Palestinians because Israel is refusing to let go more than 600 Palestinian prisoners and detainees who were supposed to be exchanged for the 6 Israeli hostages released over the weekend. Israel says it's not releasing the Palestinians because every time these hostages are set free, Hamas puts on a show, a propaganda ceremony, and Israel has said that as long as that continues, it's not letting these prisoners go. All of this is endangering the ceasefire. Sasha Petrusik, CBC News, Jerusalem.
We have the latest now on the health of Pope Francis. The Vatican says the Pope has shown some improvement and has been able to resume some work today. But it says his prognosis remains, quote, guarded. The Pope is being treated at a Rome hospital for double pneumonia, although he has not experienced any respiratory crises since Saturday. Francis is also showing signs of mild kidney failure, but doctors yesterday said recent blood tests indicate it's under control. Well, we have more local news coming up after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. Animal rights advocates gathered at the Manitoba legislature to call for harsher penalties for those who commit animal abuse. A handful of people joined Saturday's rally. One of the organizers says she'd like to see a provincial animal abuse registry established.
Basically, the person who wants to adopt would go fill out an animal abuse registry, then it'll clear them. So we don't even need to know their personal information. If you want to adopt, then you bring us your cleared animal abuse registry certificate, and that's how it would look.
Those calls come after a Winnipeg couple was charged with multiple counts of animal cruelty this past fall. Chad Cabas and Irene Lima face offenses including killing or injuring animals and causing unnecessary suffering to an animal. It's been more than 100 years since the first woman was elected as a city councillor, but yet decades later, women still make up less than a third of people with a seat at City Hall's table. The women on Winnipeg City Council came to hold a panel discussion over the weekend looking to empower other women to run for office, with the goal of empowering them to run soon. There are 5 women as part of today's administration, the largest cohort of female representation on council ever. They spoke to a group of women about barriers to entry in politics and how they navigate life at City Hall.
You want your small window of service to be recognized for sure, but what you really want more often than not is to make sure that the next generation is stepping up, and we had every generation here, including a little baby.
Only 33 women have been elected as city councillors in Winnipeg's century-plus long history. Susan Thompson served as the city's first and only female mayor from 1992 to 98. Riley, back in many people's good books. Is that what? I know you were just the bearer of bad weather for a long time.
I said it last week, and I felt like I was the annoying kid on the playground that no one wanted to talk to.
One more day. Well, we're in that upswing again.
Yes.
Things have looked up. Lots of people getting outside and enjoying these warmer weathers.
Although still some cooler air in the province, but Brittany, this is going to last for south and central parts of the province, at least for the next several days. So maybe you can ditch the booties tomorrow morning for the dog walk. I think
I was going to say mine or the dogs.
Yeah, well, both maybe. A lot of people, I think, have been waiting for this. We'll start with your dog walking forecast. Here is Daisy. Thank you, Jake. I think Daisy is really looking forward to a walk in the morning tomorrow. Keep sending your pictures. I'd love to see them to talkback@cbc.ca, and we'll see if we can get them on the air this week. So we're looking at similar conditions to today. Winds not too bad. -3 first thing in the morning with a light southeast breeze. We'll see a bit of a breeze into the afternoon hours, and that's when I think we have a better chance at seeing maybe a couple of scattered flurries, but certainly a little bit more sunshine as we get through the afternoon. At least I'm hoping anyway. And looking at temperatures staying above 0 into the evening hours as that cloud kind of comes and goes throughout the day. And some of that snow that northern Manitoba is expecting riding along the jet stream here as it comes from northern Alberta right through into Manitoba. Us in the south, we are on the warm and moist part of the jet stream, and that means that we can expect warmer temperatures, but also out of some of that moisture, some of that cloud cover, a chance really throughout the week of some scattered flurries or some scattered rain showers. Really, we don't start to return to a more normal pattern until we start to get into Saturday. You can see the jet stream slid a little bit further over to the west, and that means some somewhat cooler air, but certainly a little bit more seasonal as we get into the day on Saturday, and certainly as we get into next week. So clear skies, a bit of cloud cover overnight through the west. This is where we particularly have a chance of seeing maybe a little bit of fog overnight tonight. Into northern sections, though, temperatures hanging around -10 for Flin Flon and the Paw, but close to -30 along the Hudson Bay coast once again. And here is a look at the fog forecast as we get through the overnight into the early morning hours. I don't mean to say this is exactly where we'll see some of that fog, but certainly that's where we have the best chance of seeing some patchy fog into the overnight hours. So couple flurries first thing in the morning for the Paw, Grand Rapids into Barons River. Temperatures the further south you go hanging around the freezing mark. Temperatures getting up to the freezing mark or above as we get through the afternoon hours for the south again. Chance of some scattered flurries, Brittany, and certainly looking at temperatures closer to seasonal as we get into the day.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
The Winnipeg Jets are hosting their annual Black History Month game tonight, and this year the team will be honoring former Jets goaltender Eldon Pokey Reddick from the 80s. Pokey made history when he became the second Black goalie to play in the NHL. He spoke earlier with Marcy Marcusa.
Congratulations on this. How are you feeling about this honor?
I think it's when you're playing, and I know from other guys who are of color and, you know, of different nationalities, you just play because you love the sport. Hockey's always been my thing, so to speak. Growing up in Canada, we always knew that, I always knew that I was going to play hockey. At the level, I didn't know which level, but once I got to junior, I figured out, hey, maybe I can really do this for, you know, for a gig, as you're going to call it. But it was one of those things that that's what I wanted to do with my life, is become a hockey player. I didn't really care about the color of my skin. I knew there was going to be obstacles along the way, and that's how I handled these obstacles along the way. So,
how do you reflect on it now? You know, then you're in it. You know, you're loving the sport. You're playing.
Now,
yeah. How do you reflect on it now?
I think it's a big achievement. It's you know, I have four kids. I have 2 boys and 2 girls, and you know, you go back and was it really tough like that, Dad? Yeah, it was. It is what it is. But you know, if you have a dream and a passion, you're going to push forward, and to get to where you get, especially at the highest level of hockey that you can compete in, and the best players in the world in the league. It's you sit back now as an older guy, sit back and I says, wow, you know, I actually did something. So, and again, more colored people or more people of different types of ethnicities makes it easier for other kids to get that opportunity. That maybe my favorite goalie back in the day was Rogie Vachon, and he wasn't a black guy. So now you get to see more guys that are, you know, up there, you know, if you're black, you're looking at Grant Fuhr or all these other type goalies. That's why I kind of looked, once he started getting into the league, because he was a little bit older than I was, then I think, oh, maybe I can get there. So it's a great achievement. It's something that, like I say, you got to go through it. And it's one of those things that, you know, I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
I'm not looking for this to be negative, but I am looking for it to be truthful and real, of course. So I'm wondering if you faced racism coming up, and where you put that as you're achieving your dream as a young man.
They're we call them obstacles in our house. We don't really call them racism. We just call them obstacles. How do you go over these? You know, people are always going to tell you you can't, or you shouldn't, or this is in your way. How do you move it? So I look at it as same thing I tell my kids. You know, there's going to be obstacles. It's how we take them and how we move them. Was there racism? Yeah, sure was. And any hockey player that's of color or race or whatever, they're going to tell you the same thing. So it's just how you move them. Can you move them positive? Can you move them negative? It's just all how you tend to move the obstacle. So that's how I braced all my stuff, or how I looked at things. So
why did you fall in love with the game of hockey? Like, how old were you when you were like, oh, this is for me?
I probably started at 4 or 5 playing hockey. My dad played a little bit of hockey, you know, chasing his little dream back in the day. But it's Canadian, right? It is what it is. It's Canadian. That's what we do. We play hockey. I'm sorry. Growing up in America, we know they play baseball and football, but I know, you know, that's what we do. We play hockey. I'm sorry.
And I've never known this. I mean, like I said, I grew up watching you in the stands, you know, cheering Pokey, but why was that your nickname?
It's just because I was kind of like, you know, if the street lights didn't come on, I come in late. It wasn't, you know, I'm still out skating with the boys or playing ball hockey or street hockey, whatever we did back in those days. And parents are like, geez, that kid's so pokey. What's taking him so long? You know, and then it just, you know, that's just how it came to be. And I mean, I went to school, my first couple of years of school, teachers didn't know my real name. It's the craziest thing. They called me Pokey too. So that's, you know, that's just how it's been with me since I could remember.
To look back at the significance of becoming just the second black goalie to play in the National Hockey League, there's still a small percentage of NHL players that are black. Why do you think that is still the case?
I just think it's going to take its time. It's a sport where it's, you know, generated more towards, you know, it's an expensive sport. It really is. People, you know, just from coaching and my boys playing, and Actually, my oldest just retired. Now he's coaching in the NA, which is a junior league, which is like I'll probably say a little bit more above than the MJ Manitoba Junior League. So I know he's coaching in hockey, and he's just started his little way of that. But it just makes it's just tougher. It's just an expensive sport now that it's really expensive in America, because I see it every day. But it's starting to move, but it just takes time, I guess.
What are your fondest memories when you look back at your career about playing in Winnipeg?
Just the guys I played with. It was awesome. Like, that was my favorite time. 3 years in Winnipeg was awesome. I played in Brandon my junior, so I would kind of go back and forth. There's an opportunity for me to practice. They would say, come on in, and I'd practice maybe once and then go back and play junior. But to me, the people were so nice, friendly, great place to raise a family, great city. Everybody was, very supportive of the Jets back then, or the Blue Bombers. So it was actually awesome.
Still ahead, why a group of farmers is recruiting hundreds of retired hens. Plus, Riley's back with the last check on our forecast. Stay with us. Well, here's something truly out of this world. Astronomers say they've spotted a dazzling light show from the Milky Way's black hole. The activity was observed using the James Webb Space Telescope. Researchers say they saw a rapid-fire display that included short flashes and longer, bright flares of light on a daily basis. They say the flares spotted were unleashed by a swirling disk of hot gas and dust. They believe the flares are coming from the inner edge of the disk just beyond the black hole's horizon. These observations could explain how black holes behave and the ways they feed on their surroundings.
All right, back on this planet. Okay, maybe that's a bit cheesy, but you get the point. +2 as we get through the afternoon on Tuesday. Maybe a bit of a breeze out of the south, gusting up to 30 through the afternoon hours. But hey, look at this. Our sunset's now past 6 p.m. So that's a sign of spring to come. Up to 1 degree on the way for Thursday. Maybe a slight chance of some scattered flurries later in the day. Thursday, -1. Looking at the temperature starting at 0 on Friday, dropping as we get into the afternoon hours. And then temperatures briefly return to seasonal as we get into the weekend. -7 on the way for Saturday. Looking at -1 for Sunday. Maybe a bit breezy and some clouds back on the way for next Monday at +2. So above seasonal for the most part. Bit of wind in there and a bit of snow as well.
That's
so
okay.
A little bit of everything. Well, it's a kind of retirement some of us can only dream of. Living out the rest of your days on a farm in Cyprus.
Doesn't sound too bad. A group of retired hens have it made, and that's tonight's Daily Lift.
We bring hens that are they're on their way to slaughter. So we rescue them. So we provide them with a old hen's home, if you like, and they can come here and retire.
The hens are part of a pilot project taking place on the Mediterranean island nation. Introducing them to the olive groves has reduced pests and weeds, and their droppings fertilize the soil around the trees.
Organic farmers also say it's helping boost yields, curb disease, and manage food waste as well. The hens only lay eggs for around 2 years, so this project allows them to live for 8 or 10.
Hey, they're living my retirement dreams, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Go hang out in Greece?
I wish.
Why not?
It's probably a lot warmer than it is here.
It's same, right? Yeah. We're living the same life right now. Well, many of us enjoying these warmer temperatures. Just be careful out there overnight as that starts to freeze on the roads as well.
Fill up your washer fluid.
Yes.
Because you'll need it.
And we will see you back here tomorrow night. Have a wonderful night.